Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today for the YoloWorks Virtual Job Fair Tips Workshop. We are YoloWorks, one of America's Job Centers of California, also known as the AJCC. We assist with job searching. We also provide job leads. We offer job readiness workshops as well as some funded training programs. We assist in career planning, in resume development, and we also provide one-on-one coaching. If you're interested in any of these services, please give us a call at 530-661-2641, or you can send us an email at jobcenter@yolocounty.org. Again, thank you for joining us today for the Tips for Succeeding in Yolo County's Virtual Job Fair Workshop. Our job fair is going to run next week. It'll be 2 different days. The first day is Tuesday, March 23rd from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It will be supply and demand, transportation, and trades. And then Thursday, March 25th, also from 10 to 1, it'll be healthcare, government, and nonprofit. The link to register today is here at the bottom. You can also access the QR code. Okay, so what you can expect from the Yolo County Virtual Job Fair. So both days, all of our employers are going to give a brief presentation. After the presentation, you're going to have the opportunity to ask the employer any questions you might have and just simply engage with them. So if you're unfamiliar with Zoom, I have included a couple of different graphics here at the bottom of the PowerPoint to show you those ways that you can interact with the employers. So you can interact by simply typing in a message in the chat box. You can raise your hand, although we do ask that you wait to raise your hand until the end of the presentation. But then you can go on and just unmute yourself once they call on you. And we also encourage you guys to react throughout the employer's presentation. So if an employer tells you that they offer really great benefits and great wages, you can feel free to go ahead and press the reaction, give them a thumbs up, let them know that you are engaged. I think that's a wonderful way to just make yourself stand out in the virtual job fair space. Okay, let's go ahead and get into our tips. So tip number 1 is register ahead. You're going to want to register ahead. That way you're not scrambling the day of the job fair looking for the link. If you register early, this provides you the opportunity also to check out the employers who are going to be attending and their open positions to make sure that you have the education and experience that these positions are looking for. All right, tip number 2, test your equipment. You're going to want to make sure that your internet and your device is working properly before the job fair. Our job fair can actually be accessed through desktop, laptop, or your phone. You're going to also want to make sure, as well as your internet, that your camera and audio are working properly if you choose to have your camera on and if you choose to verbally ask the employers questions. If you're camera shy and you don't want your video on, that's totally fine as well. You can just turn off your video and you can actually still interact with the employer by asking your questions via the chat box and doing reactions throughout the presentation. Just a tip as well, if throughout the job fair your internet is unstable and you did have your video on, try disconnecting your video. This usually helps the connection. All right, tip number 3, distraction-free environment. So if it's at all possible, you're going to want to be in a quiet space and free of any distractions. If for whatever reason that's not possible, don't worry about it. You know, we're all in a pandemic, so just make sure that you have your microphone muted throughout the presentations and your camera is off, so that way, you know, we're not all watching what's going on in the background. And I also recommend having a notepad available so you can take down any important information. You know, if you are having to deal with multiple things at once and you kind of are distracted, don't worry about it. Just make sure you're engaged to the best of your ability and you have a notepad to take down notes. Okay, tip number 4, dress for success. So you're going to want to make sure that you dress to the job fair the same way that you would for an interview. First impressions are very important and you want to make sure that the employers see you in a professional manner. Some examples of appropriate clothing would be button-ups, blouses, sweaters, just definitely no pajamas, you know, no Friday night outfits. Again, just make sure that it is work appropriate, whatever you're wearing. It doesn't have to be super fancy, but again, you just want to make sure you're putting your best foot forward and you have a really good first impression with the employer. Tip number 5, research the companies and their open positions. So researching the company is going to allow you to prepare questions for the employer, and it's also going to show that you've taken the initiative to spend some time researching their company. Employers love that. Also, if you go to yoloworks.org, it's going to take you to a picture of the flyer for the job fair, and it's going to have a list of the schedule for both days for the job fair, and it's going to have each employer there. And if you actually click on the employer's name, it'll take you to the employer's open position. So you have a chance to review their positions and make sure that those positions you would be a good fit for. Okay, so these are a list of the employers who are going to be attending Yolo County's virtual job fair. who will be with us on March 23rd and who's going to be with us on March 25th, I still highly recommend that you head over to YoloWorks.org. That way you can check out each company's open positions they have. All right, back to the tips. So tip number 6 is to have an updated resume. You're going to want to make sure that your resume is tailored for the specific job that you are applying for. So for instance, if you're applying for a construction position, you're not going to want to add to your resume that you worked as a receptionist 10 years ago. That experience doesn't correlate to a construction job, and so it's just irrelevant. Any experience, education, or training that you have in construction, though, that is very important, and you're going to want to make sure that's on your resume. If you need assistance with building your resume, you can attend one of our YoloWorks resume workshops. They take place Wednesdays at 1 p.m., or you can call our Employment Center for assistance at 530-661-2641. Tip number 7, prepare a few talking points. Because you are going to have the opportunity to speak directly to employers, it's important that you're ready to answer any basic interview questions that they ask you, as well as have a short elevator pitch about yourself, your education, and your experience ready on hand as well. There's no guarantee that you're going to need to be ready for a full-blown interview, but it's always great to just be prepared. And again, a short elevator pitch as well as being prepared to answer basic interview questions is something that I always recommend that you are ready to answer when you're meeting with an employer. Tip number 8, ask questions. I think one of the coolest parts about being a part of a virtual job fair is you have the opportunity to speak directly to an employer and ask them questions without the hassle of someone coming up and interrupting you guys. And that sometimes takes place in an in-person job fair. So I highly recommend that you take advantage of this opportunity, have questions prepared for them. You can feel free to unmute yourself during the Q&A portion, or you can type questions in the chat throughout the presentation or even after. Some examples of questions you can ask them are, when is the estimated start date for their positions? What's something rewarding about their open positions? What are they looking for in a candidate? Ask them about their company culture if you weren't able to find that information when you researched them, and just ask them to talk about the day-to-day responsibilities of those positions. Any question is a good question. That saying, there's no such thing as a bad question. I think that any employer would be happy to answer any questions that you have, and it'll make them feel like you're really interested in their company and their positions, and that's going to make them feel really great. Again, I really, really recommend that you take the time to prepare some questions for them. All right, so once you've attended the virtual job fair, what's next? So you're going to receive an email with a link to all the presentations from the employers. So any information that you missed, if you weren't able to be in a distraction-free environment, you can have the opportunity to go over each presentation again, jot down any information, see some things you possibly may have missed, and then take some time to figure out which companies and positions you think would be the best fit for you, and then go ahead and put in your application. Okay, tip number 9, follow up. You're going to want to send a thank you email to the employer, just thanking them for their time. This will also make you stand out to the employer, letting them know that you are very interested in working for their company. All right, our last tip number 10, is to get prepared for a virtual interview. So the way that you prepare for a virtual interview is very similar to the way that you would for an in-person interview. So you're going to want to make sure that you are studying the job description. That way you know those important phrases and keywords that the employers are looking for throughout the interview. You're going to want to make sure that you practice your elevator pitch or your about me speech, because a very common question that employers ask in interviews is, tell me about yourself. So you're going to want to make sure you have an answer ready for that question. You're also going to want to make sure that you dress to impress, just like you did at the job fair. And, remember, no pajamas, no Friday night outfits, something very professional, a blouse, a blazer, things of that nature. You're going to also want to make sure that your computer or whatever, your desktop, whatever you're using for the virtual interview is ready to go, that your internet is working properly. And lastly, you're going to want to spend some time rehearsing questions, because I think that's important. Sometimes when we're in interviews, it's very natural to be nervous and we're on the spot. Sometimes we start talking very fast, we say a lot, all of those things. So make sure you're practicing. If you would like, you can call our Employment Center at 530-661-2641 and schedule a mock interview. They would be happy to help you prepare for a virtual interview. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Yolo County Virtual Job Fair Tips Workshop. We hope that you'll stay connected with us, that you'll give our Employment Center a call, and that you'll visit us when we are open again, which is to be determined still, that you'll subscribe to our weekly newsletter and follow us on social media and join our workshops.